In 1976, one of Elvis's most valuable jewelry pieces, a diamond ring, ended up on the finger of William Turner, a homeless man living on the streets of Memphis. This wasn't just a spontaneous act of kindness. There was a painful memory hidden in Elvis's past, and a promise he had made. What happened that night would prove that Elvis was a legend, not only in music, but also in humanity. If you want to hear more untold stories of Elvis, his heartwarming moments and unforgettable encounters with his fans, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. A new story from Elvis's life awaits you every day. It was the last days of 1976 in Memphis. The city was in the grip of a cold winter night, and the streets were unusually deserted. Elvis Presley was returning to Graceland after a long studio session. The recordings for his latest album had been challenging, and Elvis was both physically and emotionally worn out. As his black Cadillac slowly moved down Union Avenue, Elvis was looking out the window. Memphis was his city, where he was born and raised. These streets were witnesses to his childhood, both his happy memories and difficult days. That night, he wore a special ring on his finger. This $100,000 diamond ring was precious, not only for its material value, but also for the meaning it carried. The ring was a symbol of Elvis's success, but also his connection to the past. "Slow down a bit, Charlie," Elvis said to his driver. "I'm in no hurry tonight." Charlie Hodge had been Elvis's loyal friend for many years. He understood Elvis's mood. He looked pensive and thoughtful. Elvis had been in this state frequently lately, as if carrying the weight of the past on his shoulders. As they moved down Union Avenue, Elvis noticed something. On the side of the road, in front of an old building, there was a man sitting hunched over. He was shivering from the cold, and the torn coat he wore wasn't enough to protect him from the cold. "Stop," Elvis said with a sudden decision. "Stop the car." William Turner was 62 years old, but looked much older than his age. Life had roughed him up considerably. William, who once owned a small repair shop in Memphis, had lost his business due to post-war economic difficulties. The home he built with his wife Emma had fallen apart due to debts and illness. Emma's death from cancer 3 years ago had extinguished the last light in William's life. After being forced to sell his house, he had ended up on the streets trying to make a living with daily work. But as he got older, finding work became increasingly difficult. That cold evening, William had spent his last money too. All he had with him was a photograph of Emma and her wedding ring. He had thought about selling that ring but couldn't find the courage. It was the last proof of his love for Emma. Shivering from the cold, he didn't even notice Elvis's car stopping. His eyes were fixed on the ground, struggling with painful memories of the past. He remembered his last visit to Emma in the hospital. Emma had told him, "William, you've always been a good man. Don't lose your humanity even in hardships." William gained strength every time he remembered those words, but tonight was different. Hunger, cold, and despair had worn him down considerably. Maybe it was time to join Emma, he thought. As Elvis got out of his car, Charlie watched him anxiously. "Elvis, are you sure?" At this hour. But Elvis wasn't listening. As he approached William, something caught his attention. There was something familiar in that trembling man's posture, in his gaze. It was as if a scene from his own past was coming to life before his eyes. Elvis's childhood suddenly flashed in his mind. The end of the 1940s, that small house in Tupelo. The days when his father, Vernon Presley, was unemployed. His mother, Gladys's worried face. Empty cupboards. Elvis had never forgotten those days. Gladys Presley's voice echoed in his ears. "Elvis, my son, always remember, we too went through hard times once. When luck favors you, you must look back. You must not forget those who need help." Elvis had never forgotten those words. As his success grew, so did his charity. But tonight was different. He saw his own past in William. "Hello," Elvis said in a gentle voice as he approached William. When William looked up, he was surprised. Elvis Presley was standing in front of him. At first, he thought he was dreaming. Are you Elvis Presley?" he stammered. Elvis smiled. "Yes, I am. What's your name?" "William. William Turner." The man's voice still couldn't believe it. Elvis crouched down next to William. He wanted to be on the same level with him. "William, what are you doing here in this cold?" William looked away in shame. "I don't have a home, Mr. Presley, after I lost my wife." His voice began to tremble. Elvis listened patiently. As William told his story, Elvis's eyes filled with tears. This man was living a story that his father could have experienced. If luck hadn't smiled on Elvis, maybe Vernon Presley could have been on the same streets. "Would you tell me about your wife?" Elvis asked. William's face lit up. When he started talking about Emma, the love in his voice deeply affected Elvis. A 40-year marriage, dreams built together, the struggle with illness. "She was always optimistic," William said. "Even in the hardest days, she would say, 'Everything will be fine, William.' When I lost her, it was as if my world went dark." Elvis looked at the old photograph William took out of his pocket. Young Emma and William, happy and full of hope. This photograph made Elvis think about his own family. "She was a beautiful woman," Elvis said sincerely. "The most beautiful woman," William whispered. At that moment, Gladys Presley's voice came alive again in Elvis's mind. His mother's last words in her sick bed. "Elvis, my son, don't let money change you. You were always a good-hearted child. Never lose that." Elvis looked at the ring on his finger. This ring wasn't just a piece of jewelry. That ring was a symbol of the promise Elvis made to Gladys. "Mom, when I become successful, I'll always remember you and live the values you taught me." Gladys Presley's death was one of the turning points in Elvis's life. After that day, success, money, fame, none of them could replace his mother's love. But what his mother taught him continued to live in his heart. "William," Elvis said, "I want to show you something." He took off the ring on his finger. The diamond ring sparkled in the streetlight. "This ring is very valuable," Elvis said, "but its real value isn't money. This ring reminds me of a promise." William looked at the ring in amazement. "Mr. Presley, I don't understand." Elvis began to tell his story, the hardships they endured in their childhood, his mother's sacrifices, the help of neighbors in difficult days. "My mother always said, 'Elvis, never pull back your helping hand, because one day you might need that help too,'" Elvis said. As William listened, he was amazed to learn that this famous man had actually gone through hard times like himself. "When my mother died," Elvis continued, "I made her a promise. I told her that if I became successful, I would always remember what she taught me. This ring is a symbol of that promise." Elvis placed the ring in William's hand. "But today, I realize that promise doesn't end with just remembering. You have to give it life." William's hands were trembling. "Mr. Presley, I can't take this. This is too valuable." "William," Elvis said, "what's valuable isn't the ring, but the meaning behind it. By taking this ring, you're giving me the chance to keep my mother's word." William's eyes filled with tears. He had never encountered such kindness in his life. This wasn't just material help. This was regaining his human dignity. "But what can I give you?" William asked. Elvis smiled. "You already have. You reminded me of my mother's words." At that moment, William also remembered something. Emma's last words. William, don't lose your humanity even in hardships. Maybe Emma had foreseen this moment. Mr. Presley, William said. My wife Emma always said, kindness is contagious. If you're doing this kindness to me, I promise to do it to others too. Elvis's face lit up. That's it. This was the real power of kindness, continuing in a chain. Then this ring will honor not only you, but also Emma, Elvis said. As William turned the ring in his fingers, he seemed to hear Emma's voice. Wear it with pride, William. You deserve this. Elvis took William with him to a nearby motel. He paid for the room and left him enough money for a few days. This is a beginning, Elvis said. You'll do the rest. William was amazed. Why? Why are you being so kind to me? Elvis thought for a moment. Because, William, you reminded me that my mother was always right. Being kind doesn't just do good to the receiver, but also to the giver. The next day, William began his effort to rebuild his life with that valuable ring. The ring's value would be enough for him to live comfortably for several months, but William decided to do more than that. With the money he got from selling the ring, he opened a small repair shop. He named the business Emma and William Repair Shop, to honor Emma's memory and Elvis's kindness. As months passed, William's repair shop began to succeed. But William didn't forget the lesson he learned from Elvis. Every month he set aside part of his income for those in need. One day, a young man came to his shop. His car had broken down, but he wasn't able to pay for the repair. What William did would make Elvis proud. He repaired the young man's car for free. Why? The young man asked. Because once someone did me a kindness, William said. This chain continues. The young man was Marcus Williams, and this kindness changed his life. Marcus, who later became a successful businessman, never forgot the lesson he learned from William. William's story slowly began to spread in Memphis. People learned that Emma and William Repair Shop didn't just repair cars, it also repaired hope. Elvis never forgot that night. His encounter with William taught him as much as music, maybe even more. He understood how deep his mother's words were. In his subsequent concerts, Elvis often talked about doing good. He showed his fans that he was an example not only with his music, but also with the life he lived. When William heard of Elvis's death in 1977, he was very sad. But Elvis's spirit continued to live within him. Every time he did a good deed, he remembered Elvis. On the wall of his shop was a photograph of Elvis. Below it was a note written in Emma's handwriting. Kindness is contagious, EP and ET. William never regretted selling that ring for the rest of his life, because that ring wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a value system, a life philosophy, a love story. Years passed, but William's story became legendary in Memphis. Emma and William Repair Shop had become one of the most beloved places in the city. William wasn't just repairing cars, he was repairing people's lives. The ring Elvis gave that night had changed not only William's life, but the lives of dozens of people. Starting with Marcus Williams, every person who was helped continued this chain of kindness. When William died at age 85, hundreds of people attended his funeral. His life proved the power of the kindness Elvis started that night. Marcus Williams, speaking at William's funeral, said, "Uncle William didn't just teach me car repair. He taught me how to repair life." This lesson was taught to him by Elvis Presley. Among those present at the funeral that day were some of Elvis's former musicians. Charlie Hodge remembered that night. Elvis didn't just give a ring that night. That night he laid the foundation of a legacy. The story of the ring Elvis Presley gave to William Turner shows the true power of kindness. A momentary decision not only changed one person's life, but gave a community a philosophy of kindness. This story teaches us that true wealth lies not in material possessions, but in the value we give. Elvis gave a $100,000 ring that night, but what he received in return, touching a person's life, was priceless. William Turner's life also shows that magnifying the kindness we receive and giving it to others is the most beautiful way to say thank you. Elvis's kindness didn't end with William. It continued in a chain. Gladys Presley's words that night guided not only Elvis, but also William. Never pull back your helping hand. This word still echoes in the streets of Memphis today. Elvis Presley wasn't just the king of the music world. He was also the king of kindness. The ring he gave that night wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a value system, a life philosophy, a love story, and best of all, this story still continues. In Memphis, in the community center built where William's repair shop used to be, under Elvis's photograph, that writing still stands. Kindness is contagious. This writing reminds everyone who sees it, everyone has a ring they can give. What matters is having the courage to give it.